Hello, friends. How are you? I hope you're doing well. It is Friday, the 14th. I think today is actually Valentine's Day. I've been sort of switched off from Valentine's Day forever, but if you are one of those people that really loves to celebrate Valentine's Day, then happy Valentine's Day to you. So today, it's an intense day for me today. I've just had a few little tears because I'm still feeling a little bit tender. I'm starting to feel all the good feels coming through. Hi Amethyst, hi Darcy, hi Angela, hi Barbara. I'm starting to feel all the good feels coming back through again. I'm starting to start to feel that creativity. Hi Shadow and Light Tarot. Hi Burn Photography. Hi Claire. And hi Megan, the Eco Girl, and Brianna. It's hi Joe, how you going? Avalon by nature. Hey Anna. Things are, they're slowly finding their way, and I think the thing that is causing me the most sadness is the time that I'm spending away from my kids. I just hit a pocket of like sadness just before. They've been with me all week, and I have to hand them over on Sunday. And I should be grateful that I've spent the whole week with them. And yesterday in particular, I had to go into the city to take my daughter to her specialist appointment because of her shoulder situation, which she injured last year, and my son for his eye exams and that. So I got to spend the day with them in an unusual way. Just a little extra time, you know what I mean? They would have been otherwise at school, but my little one still had to go to school. It's funny. I wasn't feeling this sad until I pressed record. I don't know what happened. But I have one of their pictures fell off the wall. I have just been thinking about next week when they're not going to be with me, and today's conversation with my 4-year-old daughter who was stressing. She was anxious about how many more sleeps until she had to go back to her dad's, and how many more sleeps until she would come back to her mum's. And so it put me on a sad note this morning, just trying to have that conversation, but like pretend like I was really okay with it. I wanted to be really stable for her. I was like, you're gonna see mummy again soon, and it's only gonna be this many. And I brought her up to the calendar and I showed her the calendar and everything, and it's hard to put conviction into what you say when you're not feeling what you're saying, like when you don't believe in what you're saying. It's really hard to put conviction in it. So I'm exhausted from having to pretend that I'm okay with that for their sake. So I've been thinking about the things that have been helping me, because this live stream was inspired about the things that have been helping me. And there have been many, many things that I have put into practice that have been helping me. One of the first things is adequate sleep. Sounds like a really simple one, but I find that if I do not, sorry, I'm just looking at my puppy. Yeah, if I do not sleep adequately enough, then my emotional perceptions of the following day are a lot more erratic, I suppose. Like, we're naturally grumpy when we don't have enough sleep anyway, so when you're already going through difficult processes in your life, sleep is really, really quite the good aid. And I'm having dreamless sleep, like dreamless, like devoid of dreams. I'm sleeping so deeply that I am just allowing my subconscious to subconsciously do what my subconscious needs to do to sort of help to recalibrate. And I wake up in the morning feeling more optimistic when I dream like that. I use an app called Sleep Cycle. Hi, Dylan. And it sort of measures my sleep. I'm sure you're familiar with the app. It's been around for ages, but it measures my sleep. So it tells me, when I had a light sleep, when I had a not so light sleep, if I was restless, the quality of sleep that I've had. It sort of like listens and measures your sleep. Some people find that creepy. I happen to find it very reassuring. And so I've been using that app, Sleep Cycle. I have also been measuring my emotional mood, my emotional output uh, by the moon cycle. And I've spoken about this app before, and it's called the Deluxe Moon Calendar. And it's available on, I'm not sponsored to say this, it's available on iOS and Android, because I have had this app in my life forever, and I've had Android and iOS devices in the time that I've had this app, and I've been able to access that app. It's also a really handy guide for those who like to loosely play around with planting by the moon. So I highly recommend it, and it's a great way of knowing exactly. Oh, hi, Lisha. Yeah, and it's a really great app for just keeping track of the lunar cycles. And I like to take that information into consideration when I'm journaling and when I'm doing my client readings. So usually when I do my client readings, I type in, like I don't type it in, but I physically hand write on my pages the date, the moon phase, and the astrological hour, because I consider those to be really important. And when you start to pay attention to those things, you can notice synchronicities. Thank you. Yeah, so so it's a really hi Nikki Sparkle. Oh, okay. um yeah, so they're two little things that I have been really focused on leaning into. The other one has actually been books. Now, because of the nature of wound and situation, I am reading a lot of books that are rather devoid of relationship and emotional complications. So I'm in the process of reading the Arc of the Scythe trilogy, and it's a dystopian. But I also started The Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula Le Guin, and I've got The Lies of Locke Lamora on the go, and I don't know, I cracked The Beautiful the other day by Renee Adier. And I have been approaching my reading in a less fervent way than I did in January. We're halfway through February and I haven't even finished a book. It's taken me 2 weeks to make any kind of progress. Oh no, I did. I finished Thunderhead. And then I moved on to The Toll. So I'm in the last book. So reading has been really helpful. And because I am interested in escapism at the moment, in a healthy, creative way, that is, I have been gravitating more towards entertaining forms of fiction. So I'll show you here what I have on my reading cart. This is my little reading cart here. So this is The Beautiful, the one that I cracked the other day. I bought this for my kids to read, which I thought was really cool. This is The Magic Misfits by Neil Patrick Harris. I've heard that this is a really good story. So I've been reading that to the kids. And I picked this one here up because look at the price. Like, Raymond Feast is one of my dad's era. It's from my dad's era of literature or, favorite writers. I grew up with a library featuring this one. Robin Hobb was there, and David Eddings was there, and oh, so many of the old classics. But this one, this is a hardback, and it was $39.99, and I got it for $6, $5.99. Like, incredible. Incredible. And I'm really interested in reading The Bear and the Nightingale, and that one's supposed to have a really nice kind of like Russian tone to it. It's literary fiction, and I really enjoyed the last book in literary fiction that I read, which was Circe by Madeline Miller. That was a really, really witchy story because it surrounded the Witch of Aiaia and her story, like her legendary story, and it was based on Greek mythology, and it was great. It was absolutely wonderful. Something else that I've really been focusing on to help me pull me out of sadness is my awareness of food. This is a strange one because I didn't realize that I've known this for a little while, but it hasn't always been my thing. Like I've never really like had that relationship with food where it was a crutch for me. And over the last couple of years, that is exactly what's happened. I have that relationship with food where it is a comfort and a crutch kind of thing. So I have been trying to educate myself on food in a different way, which is a bit funny because, I did a couple of years of a Bachelor of Health Science and Nutritional Medicine, and so it's revisiting something that I kind of know still a little bit, but I don't know, blissful ignorance? Maybe that's what it was. But I've been really looking at food as medicine and leaning a lot into turmeric and my vital greens, and just being aware of how much salt and sugar and starch and things are going into my body because I'm fatigued. Because I'm sad, I'm fatigued. And oh, hi Matthew. Yeah, and so I want my food intake, my nutritional intake to be able to support the level of emotional stress that I'm under. And so I've been making strides, and I spent the Saturday gone with a really, really old friend of mine, someone who I've known for well over 20 years, and we don't get to see each other very much. She's a nurse, she has a boy, I have children, I live over here, she lives in the city and that. But we've been trying to plan to have like a sleepover. And it finally happened on the Saturday. So I went to her place and we just chilled and talked and talked and talked and talked. Like no TV, no music. We just sat there and talked to each other because it's been a really long time. And so it was really nice to be able to share space with someone that I'm really comfortable and familiar with, and, someone who's a good friend of mine. And, that helped. But while I was over there, I weighed myself. I haven't weighed myself in well over I haven't weighed myself since I've lived in Tasmania, put it that way. And I've lived in Tasmania for well over a year and a half. I came in July, almost 2 years ago now. So it was it was scary. It was scary, and it really helped to shift my perception of body. And I know that you shouldn't look at this bit of hair. Someone needs a hairdresser, like please. And I know that one you know, shouldn't bet everything against their physical weight. I know that, I'm not silly, but it does help. And because I got that inspired, because I saw shattered a few things for me, I decided that the very next day I would go to the Big W closest to where I was staying. I bought myself a fancy pair of scales, not pair, but a fancy set of scales, and I brought it home and I made sure to weigh everybody because I was like, "We're introducing a new eating regime," and so it's happening. It is actually happening. So, food as medicine. It's been sunny, so I've been able to use my Vitamix blender to make some hella good smoothies, and for those who are keen, where are you? Oh, here. I like to use spinach and greens and natural greens, but I also put this stuff here and there. It costs a fortune, but I do use it, and I put it in my smoothie. So there's that, and journaling has been incroyable. It really has. I have been journaling quite a bit, and I have also been using social media and these types of vlogs to emotionally decompress. And I've got to say that I can see myself revisiting this type of content that I'm making right now, the old Instagram posts, or my current Instagram post, these vlogs, these lives that I've been doing, and seeing it as a perfect capture of a time in my life, and really, really capturing it in a way that a journal page can do that. But it's the journal page, it's the imagery that I've been posting, it's the lives that I've been posting, and I've really been allowing myself to be quite vulnerable and open, and just allowing myself to share what it is that I'm burdened with at the moment. And I'm typically a relatively private person, and I say that from the point of view as I don't like to share too many emotional woes, but it feels so right. It feels honest. It feels very real for me to be able to present this side of myself, and I haven't felt uncomfortable about it, and I've been really, really I've been feeling very open. It's an odd thing to try to capture into any kind of solid descriptive, but I have been feeling very open. And and I wanted to touch on something that that was sort of, it's just chatter. It's chatter that the internet. The internet's a beautiful place, and sometimes you happen upon things, and it's this idea that witches live a charmed life. And I was thinking about this last night as I was sitting in my bed, and I had my son asleep next to me because the kids have been taking their turns to sleep next to me, and I think it's really sweet that they want to cuddle. But yeah, I was. Oh God, I lost my train of thought. Oh, yeah, that's right. I was thinking about this, and it's like, well, a witch doesn't have any issues in their life, apparently. Like, that's the general consensus of this, like, little thread of, like, whatevers that I found. And I found myself thinking about it, and I'm like, do I believe that? Sometimes I have to put things through my truth measure, right? And ask myself flat out, do I actively believe that? Is there a skerrick of truth in that? Do I feel that there is a skerrick of truth in that? I consider all things. I'm a very, very open minded person, actually. It's not as good a quality as people may think. Um, but I really found myself measuring that. And it's not that witches don't face hardship, because everybody faces hardship. It's what witches and magical people and mystics and magicians and enchantresses and weavers and intuitives, it's what we do in that space. And I think the best thing to do in those types of instances is to allow yourself to succumb to the shadow and work your way through that, because it won't then linger in your subconscious in any kind of nasty way. It won't become a trigger for the future if you process it effectively. And I think that that is the difference between those who are magically minded and those who are mundane minded. And I feel that. I feel that 89%, I feel that. I'm still my own personal experiment right now. And I'm approaching my sadness, my story, my narrative right at this moment in time in a very unique way to what I would have, many, many years ago. And I'm definitely taking things into consideration that I have never thought about. I am allowing myself to decompress as completely as I can because it feels like that is exactly the type of medicine that I need. I need to be able to channel my sadness as though it were a muse in and of itself and create with that sad muse as much as I can and take into consideration those those whispers of the dark mother and take it all in, question everything. It's really been helping me to process. And I allow myself to cry extraordinarily, extraordinarily freely. And I've had a negative relationship with crying and tears, and I'm getting over that this time around. I'm allowing myself to not hold back and to choose exactly when I do kind of release. I went out to work today. I decided that I would take all of my laptops, my two laptops, my iPad, my phone, both of my journals, my equipment, and sit down at my favorite little cafe and sit there and write and do a few things and just tinker around and do things. But I wanted to do them in a totally different setting. So the change of setting was absolutely necessary for me. And I sat there and I worked. And in doing so, I had this experience where I started gravitating people towards me. I was sitting at what they call the members table because it's where the same people sit every damn day, and it's where my father and his friends sit. So he's a member, I'm a member by extension. I just know everyone because of my father. And I was sitting there because not because it was the members table, but it's because it was the closest to the PowerPoint that I needed because my equipment was slowly going flat. So I positioned myself and I occupied like a lot of space there. And slowly and surely the members started to sit around me, and they're accustomed to seeing me position myself in such a way and sort of create this makeshift office. And it's beautiful view, there's heaps of windows, you get to see the passerbyers, it's quite nice, and it's a good alternative to working from home because it's a bit dark in here and I didn't want to be at home by myself. So people started to ask me about how I was doing. They haven't up until now. And I sucked it in and I went, I can have this conversation now because I can get through it without having to cry now. I can get through that without having to have this little meltdown. And so people started to ask me, what was the situation? How is the kids going? What measures am I taking and how I'm feeling and just really intricate questions from people who genuinely care about me, because I'm known to them. And they're all older than I am, like much, much older than I am. So they're very caring and, a bit nosy as well. And I found myself just speaking and I believed everything that I was saying. I didn't have to fake it, and I was voicing myself in such a way that had this inherent sense of calm, and I didn't shed a tear. I didn't even look misty-eyed. I sat there and I had that was my first conversation with 5 individual people about how I was feeling, how the kids were feeling, what my concerns were, how things have been, and I didn't have that cryy sad moment because I no longer cry every time I think about it. And it felt so nice to feel like I was more in control. And then I went out and I bumped into Gordon in town. I was going to say in the city. I bumped into Gordon in the main street, and we were both checking our mail. And I picked up some dinner for tonight, and I sat in the car on the phone with my sister. And once I got home, I just started crying. I think it was a bit too much. I think it was a little bit too much for me. And and I also had to write an email today to my now ex-husband. I guess that's what you'd call it. My now ex-husband, and just voice some of the concerns that I had. And it was a lot to try and put my concerns into words. And I think that that's kind of what took its toll on me today, is actively voicing the issues that I have been observing and making an effort to correct those as best we can, with full acknowledgement of the fact that no matter what happens from here on in, it won't be perfect. You know, I'm not going to have my kids with me 100% of the time. No matter how much I want that, that is not going to happen. And by putting that down on paper, I acknowledge that, and that was something that was really hard. It was just hard to acknowledge. They're my babies. I haven't spent much time away from them. And now I have to spend time away from them. And I also have to contend with the fact that they will be in the care of others other than myself and my ex-husband. And today that is what sort of like, because I'm nearing an end to my week with the kids. It's Friday. I hand them over to their father on Sunday. And their week next week, I'm so worried about them because they're going to be with their dad every night, and that's good. They're going to have to go to before school care and after school care. And my youngest is just not loving school because she only just started and her teacher's very different to her, and still it's not a familiar setting, it's not a familiar place. And I just feel for her so much. So I reached out to my ex-husband and I suggested that we arrange for the kids to have a bit of counseling. And you know, just so that they can have a person who is equipped to deal with these kinds of concerns as well, because it's serious stuff, and their emotional and mental well-being is, you know, paramount to this story. They are my number one priority. No.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Siri loves to interrupt me when I talk, but they are my number one priority, and I have to make the decisions that are best for them, irregardless of how I feel. And you know, and that's the most challenging part, is this necessity to be such a solid grown up. Sometimes I'm asked, when do you know that you've grown up? Like, when do you know that you've grown up? And this is definitely a time where I know that I'm grown up. Definitely a time where I know that I am sure of myself, where I know who I am, where I know what's right, and where the options to me are clear, but at the same time devastating to me as a mother, but they are very clear. And My aim throughout this is to be very conscious, very aware, to not be selfish, and to put their needs before my own every single time. And oh, that's great, Kelsey. Oh, thank you, Emerald Moon. Oh, I know that there are other people in similar positions to me, and what I'm going through is unique in a way because it's me and my children, and that's never happened before. But in the grand scheme of things, it is something that has happened to many people before. I'm a child of divorce. I know what it feels like to be primarily without my mother more than my father. That is through choice. But I was old enough to make that choice, and it wasn't something that was forced upon me, and I wasn't separated from my father at a super young age either. I was 12 and I could cope to a degree, but I I feel very different about this. I feel a morsel of failure because I am a child of divorce, and I thought I will never ever get divorced because I have children, and I wouldn't do that to my kids. My ex-husband is not a child of divorce, and therefore he does not know how his children are feeling, and I do. And so I have an insight here that he doesn't possess yet, and probably never will, obviously, because he's not a child of divorce. But if you are a child of divorce, then you know exactly what I mean. And now I'm putting my children through that. And I really thought that I could protect them from that. I genuinely did. And as it turns out, I couldn't. And I'll make my peace with that. I really will. But right now, I haven't made my peace with that. It hasn't been a month, it's only been a couple of weeks. And things are still very up in the air, and they are very raw, and they are still new, and they are confusing and confronting and intricate and intense. They are intense. But I'm getting there, and I've been doing a lot. I've become a little bit addicted to a TV show on Stan called The Bold Type. If you've seen it, let me know what you think. Uh, but it's quite the distraction from, the books that I've been reading right now and just interaction with my kids. And it kind of reminds me of when I was younger, and I used to get up to quite a few shenanigans. And it's sort of like, yeah, it's a fun little thing to use as an escape. But of late, I have really started to shift my focus on better sleep, and I don't want to consume like media from a screen in the later hours of the evening because I don't believe that that's in my best interest. Oh, thank you, mistress. Yeah, it's a crazy time, folks. It is a crazy time. But there are so many things that I have been doing that have been helping me. And one of them is actually, doing these once a week. I think I've been doing them now. Like every every week or so. I jump on and I have a live and I have a cry and I decompress and I try to, you know, voice it all, because perhaps maybe it will help me to release it. Perhaps it could help somebody else who's going through a similar situation, and perhaps it can rally community. Perhaps it's just something different. I find that there's so much polished content on YouTube and on my channel too. There's a lot of polished content on my channel. But every so often, it's really important to just be a little bit more authentic, less polished. Vlogging off my iPhone XS, the regular size one because it fits better in my pocket. Yes. I haven't done my morning dishes. Not that there are many dishes to do because I'm actually a tidy person. And just sitting in the almost silence of my tiny home, just appreciating the fact that I have this roof over my head that is 100% mine, this patch of land that is so beautiful, the dream of living off grid in a cold climate. Like, I've achieved some of my bucket list things. And I think about how lucky I am and how many opportunities are yet to present themselves to me. But I'm in no hurry right now. I'm in no hurry. I'm in a beautiful Three of Swords tower, Three of Swords, creeping into a Four of Swords, waving at the Hermit phase. And it's a good place to be. There's a lot there. There's a lot there. And I did readings this week. I didn't know if I'd be working in the week that I had the kids, but I felt really inspired. I woke up one day and I was just like, I feel really good. So I went up and I did readings, and that went really well. And then I've been keeping myself relatively busy. And yeah, it's been interesting. I'm really into audiobooks. Hands up if you're an audiobook lover. Audiobooks help to focus. When I said I've been reading books, I have physically been reading books, but I tend to drop the books in exchange for the audiobooks. And I yeah, I yeah, I've been really, really loving the audiobooks. Yeah, it's crazy. I actually like the whisper sync. Hey, Biffy. I love the whisper sync between Kindle and audiobooks, and because I like right now you can sort of see it's bright enough to see, but I'm not really well lit up, and towards the and it's a bit cloudy as well, but towards the winter time the light here is shocking. And so I opted for Kindle books because they, come on backlit devices. Well, I read my off the Kindle app on my iPad, and WhisperSync has become really good because with the way that I'm feeling and my mind is processing information internally, I'm coming to visit, Anna. I'm coming to visit. Just make up the couch for me, and I'll totally be there. Uh, yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, but because I have the Kindle app and I'm reading off the Kindle app, I usually buy the audiobook narration at a fraction of the price. And seriously, make up your couch. I will be there. Perfect. Perfect. And it's like, I'm serious. And I'm like, I'm actually pretty serious too. I've been wanting to go to Reader Studio, so maybe we could make that happen. And yeah, it's I sit there and I listen, and I'm actually following the words because it sort of highlights as you go along. And it helps to keep me focused, because I find that when I'm reading, just staring at the page, reading, and it's a quiet moment of solace and all of that good fun stuff, I I get pulled off topic. 2 more months, yay! I'll come to America. I will this year. It's gonna be my year, and, some point I'm gonna get there. I promise I'll get there. And if I do, Anna, I'm coming to see you. But there's lots and lots of things that can be done to help to not forget or cure the sadness, but to ease and distract yourself from it from time to time. With sadness that's thick and layered and heavy, it's hard to escape that, and I feel really fatigued. I feel tired despite the fact that I'm sleeping well and I'm eating well and I am doing the right things, but I feel tired because of that sadness. And I've had postnatal depression, so I know what that feels like. This is different. This is just pure sadness. It really is. And I don't feel depressed, but I feel genuinely sad, and it can be really heavy, and it's like, I don't know, it feels a bit like the Ten of Wands, like the burden, feeling completely encumbered by this feeling that impossible to escape, you know? It's a necessity to carry it. No one can do it for you, and it's really heavy, it's heavy. And so in moments like that, it helps to have certain tools in place to assist you to have these moments of reprieve and just these delightful moments of escape in ways that are constructive and good for you as a human being, without having to like lean into vices and negative habits and more toxic situations. Like it can be very easy to slip into those pathways and forget. And definitely the temptation does knock on the door from time to time, but I've been really solid. Um, I have been really solid. My castle, my tower has crumbled completely, but me as a person, I feel rock solid. I feel rock solid. For a while there, I felt like I was made of water. And now I'm starting to feel like I'm made of like ancient stone. Very interesting transformation, I must say. And it's a good visual to stick with for me personally. And and I just want to just sort of reach out there and say to to those who do go through similar experiences and who are in fact having a difficult time, that there is definitely a way to offer support to yourself and to employ things like self-love, which I think is a outrageously overused term. But it is an act of self-love when I go to sleep at a really good time so that I can get a good night's sleep. It is an act of self-love when I feed myself the right types of food. And an act of self-love when I read, when I sit down to read. And reading is a huge part of my narrative right now because I am strengthening my vocabulary. I'm engaging my mind. My imagination is going at 100 miles an hour, and I'm in this creative, nebulous, creative space. And it is such a healing place to find yourself. And it's possible to reach that creative, nebulous space doing many other things. It's not just reading that will get you there, but reading is its own special little thing. And those of you who love to read will know exactly what I'm talking about. But I used to get that same feeling when I would fire dance. I was really into fire dancing. I did the poi, I did the double stars, I did the contact staff, the single staff back in the day. And I used to just feel this like magnificent, just nebulous, delicious energy that they call flow. It's actually part of the flow community term. And yeah, it's really important to engage in something that gets you there into that space, because it's a good way to recharge the batteries. It's a good way to bring a little light into the shadow. It's a good way to treat yourself. And it's good for not just you, but for those around you, because when you can find, a steady platform in which to rest your wearied body, then it's regenerative and it is positive from many different perspectives. It's good. It's genuinely good for you. So find that beautiful thing. And yeah. All right, folks. Well, I've been on here for almost an hour. Gotta go pick up my kiddly winks now. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Thank you so much for all of the lovely donations. I received a PayPal donation this morning and I completely forgot. I'm like, why did I just get, why did somebody just send me money? Like, I completely forgot. And it's like it was actually a little sign, because today was a hard day and it was the first thing that I saw today, and I felt really, like perked up because of it. And then I had the day that I had, but I just got that, I got that experience, and I felt supported in that moment. It was just really, really nice. So thank you just so much to everyone who has given me their time, given me their energy, their well wishes, who have sent some, good vibes my way, who have donated into my PayPal account, and who have just been beautiful, just beautiful souls, like really, really beautiful souls in a solid community. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate it. And I hope that wherever you are and whatever you are doing, you are surrounded by the same type of love and support that I am, because I have a beautiful life. I realize that I do. It's just a little something right now that's keeping me from truly embracing all the joy that there is to have. And I know that I'll get there, but I'm still very grateful for the things that I do have. And I won't focus on the things that I don't have for the sheer sake of it, because that will bring that lack mentality, that mentality of I'm lacking in something. And that's definitely not the headspace that I want to find myself in. And so, yeah, have a great day, folks. Happy Valentine's Day to you. And I hope that if you celebrate it, you've got yourself a Valentine's. I have red roses growing in the front of my cottage. They're really big, beautiful red roses. So I have red roses in my Valentine's Day. And my son has said happy Valentine's to me a number of times. Apparently, I'm his girlfriend. So, Mum, you're my girlfriend, he said to me this morning. And I'm like, well. I had things to say about that, of course, but then I realized you're 6. All right, we can do this. We'll just accept this in the moment. All right, beautiful souls. Well, look after yourselves, and I'll chat to you again soon. And yeah, I'm gonna start doing some vlogs again. Hope you don't mind. See ya.